to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we should have a treat for you today. This puzzle on screen is called Killer Arrows, and it's by Abed Hawila. Abed has been publishing some amazing puzzles of late on Logic Masters Germany, and probably we should have been giving them more attention, actually. This one on screen, I can tell you, has been garnering plaudits from none other than Totally Normal Cat, Codec, amongst others. So this really should be brilliant. Not sure how difficult it is, though. So you'll probably have to judge that from the length of the video. I'm in a good mood as well, because actually I heard from Fistemafel yesterday. I think he did enjoy watching me do battle with his latest Sudoku, and he recommended a couple of puzzles for us to try on the channel as well. So I can tell you that we will try and get round to those soon. I'm not going to tell you who the authors were. I might tell you when we actually do try and record solves of them. But yeah, imagine having your puzzle recommended by Fistemafel. There can be, I think, no higher honour. Now, what do I need to tell you about before I read you the rules of this one? A couple of things. Firstly, this evening, 10 PM UK time, assuming I am still awake, because I did do a 50k cycle ride this morning, much against my better judgment. But if I am still awake, and I should be, it's going to be the next edition of The Witness, my live streaming attempts to get through this beautiful game I've been playing. I think this will be the eighth episode, so do join me. I would really welcome your company, and yeah, wish me luck. Oh, and the other thing is, I've got a treat for everyone. I've got a treat because Sam Cappleman-Lynes, the brilliant solver and constructor from the UK, sent me this, which is a set of 6 puzzles he's created. They're all interlinked. And Sam very kindly has put them into the software for us, because we could never have done this. I have no clue how Sam has managed to do this, but he has. So if you want to have a go, each one of these grids has different rules. Then do have a go. I will put the link to this under the video. I will also tweet about it later on today. Our Twitter handle is @CrypticCracking, and give this a go. Again, this has been garnering astonishing plaudits over on the Discord server, so you know you're in. Well, you always know you're in for a treat with Sam's puzzles. They're absolutely brilliant, but this has been already garnering rave reviews. So have a crack at that. Let's get back to Abed Hawila's puzzle. Here we go, and I'll read you the rules. So this one, we've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits along an arrow must sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. And in cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. So we've got normal arrow rules and normal killer Sudoku rules. All of these cages, look, are entirely within a box of the Sudoku, so we don't need the normal rule about not being able to repeat a digit in a cage, because you simply couldn't repeat a digit in any of these cages without breaking the rules of normal Sudoku. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play Maverick. Can you hear that? Can you? I've literally just started 3 minutes 20 seconds ago. I started the video, and he's taken off and about to buzz past my window. It is extraordinary. It's been absolute silence from Maverick all morning, and now he takes to the skies. Right, anyway, I'm getting distracted. I think I've told you how to play the puzzle. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now, let's get cracking indeed. Now, there doesn't look to be much we can do here in terms of all of the arrows look too short and stubby to be. Oh, that 1, 2, 3, that is a 3-cell arrow. This is a 3-cell arrow. That's a 3-cell arrow. Okay, so there are some 3-cell arrows. And why am I focusing on 3-cell arrows? Well, of course, if each cell on the arrow has to be different, the minimum we could put in there would be 1 + 2 + 3, which is 6. So I can put 6, 7, 8, and 9 into the circles that have 3-cell arrows emanating from them, which is not the most amazing deduction. Let's check now. So what I'm doing now, by the way, is I'm now looking to see whether or not there are any rows or columns or boxes that have clusters of arrows in them. So for example, if you look at row 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 5 arrow cells in row 3. Therefore, I know the minimum these arrow cells could add up to is 15, and that could give me an insight. In fact, it's absolutely hopeless here, because these arrows belong to, I think, 4 different circles, so we can deduce nothing from that. Similarly, box 3, those cells there could be a minimum of 10 with 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, so we know those circles add up to at least 10, but that doesn't actually tell us anything about their composition. I'm not seeing what's going on here. Oh, maybe I've got to use the 15 cages. Hang on a moment. Yeah, that's almost interesting. Look, if these 15 is either 6, 9 or 7, 8. Now, if these 15 cages are the same composition, that puts a lot of pressure on this arrow. So they couldn't be 7s. If they're both 7, 8, this arrow would become impossible. Now, if they were both 6, 9, it would not be impossible, because you could put 9 in the circle and 6 on the arrow, and it would work with a 1, 2, 6 arrow. Let me just think about this for a moment. So if these were both 6, 9, you get a 9 here. This couldn't be a 9, therefore. This arrow would have a 1 on it. This arrow would have a 1 on it. You'd have to put 1 here. You couldn't then put 2 on this arrow. So this would have to be a 1, 3, 4, 8 arrow. Whoa. 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 6. Sorry, I'm doing a bit of juggling in my head here. Just I'll show you what I'm thinking. I was thinking if these are both 6 and 9, then this has to be a 9. This arrow would then have to be 1, 2, and 6. This 9 forces this to be less than 9. Now, the only thing I know about a 3-cell arrow that adds up to less than 9, if the digits have to be different, is it must now have a 1 on this arrow. So now, where do we put a 1 in row 4? It's got to go here. But we can go further than that and say, oh, hang on a minute, can this arrow now have a 2 on it? Well, if it has a 2 on it, I've got to put a 2 into one of those 3 squares by Sudoku. And that is impossible. So there is no 2 on this arrow. So this arrow would have to be a 1, 3, 4 arrow, because it can't add up to 9. So this would actually be an 8, 1, 3, 4 arrow. Now, the only problem with going along this train of thought is that actually this could be correct. I say that because it doesn't seem to be wrong, does it? So I think we've got to just delete all this, because it's all conjecture, but it's possibly correct conjecture. I'm going to leave these as 6, 7s, 8s and 9s, because that seems reasonable. Now, well, reasonable as in it is true. They're either 6, 9 or 7, 8 in each case. I'm not actually doing very well here, am I? I've got lots of squares that I've got down to 6, 7s, 8s and 9s, but none of them seem very helpful. 15, 12 cage there. No, what we've got, 13, 12 cage here. We've got lots of almost interactions between the cages, but they don't actually seem to do anything. Like if there was a common digit between the 12 cage and the 15 cage, that would be forced onto an arrow cell in box 3. But the problem is that that's extremely possible. I'm not understanding this, am I? 18. It's not geometry, is it? We haven't got... I don't think it is geometry, because we've not got much that looks like it's cluttered or particularly... Well, I suppose unless we're looking at the rows and columns that have the cages in them. But I don't think that's going to work. Let me just take a quick look at this. So if we highlight column 4 and column 9 in blue, and then I highlight row 1 and row 4 in orange, yeah, we're not getting enough of a... We know that the orange cells are equal to the blue cells, but there's not enough commonality there. There's nothing interesting. I mean, there's nothing doing there, is there? That's just complete. That is complete and utter nonsense. Sorry. Bother. 10 minutes. I've done absolutely nothing useful. I could have done all of this in 20 seconds. So I feel it's to do with these 15 cages somehow, and what they do to this arrow. So let's assume these are different. If they're different, that doesn't do anything then. Oh, no, hang on. So maybe... that might be interesting, actually. So when I was looking at combining rows and columns before and thinking it was not correct, I might have been thinking about it incorrectly, because I just wonder whether... Yeah, this is not such a... What about if we try and use the cages to force totals onto arrow cells? How would we do that using set? Now, that might be worth thinking about. If I highlight boxes 2, 3, 5 and 6 instead of just doing the row. Now, okay, let's take a look at this. Now I highlight these. Does that get me something more interesting? The reason that might be interesting is I'm going to force... Yeah, these are all relatively high totals, actually. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this in earnest, I think. Because what we can do is the following. Let's actually describe what we're doing here. So, the orange cells, which I highlighted originally, are definitely 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. And we know that because that is definitely 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. Similarly, that is 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. By 1 set of the digits 1 to 9, I mean that in the finished solution to the puzzle, the digits 1 to 9 will appear once each in those 9 cells. The same is true here. Whoops. The same is true here. The same is true here. So the orange cells together are 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Now, the blue cells are almost also equal to 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Clearly, those blue cells in row 1 are 1 set of the digits 1 to 9, because in a row of a Sudoku you have to have 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. Similarly, row 4 is the same. Now, it's almost true that for column 4 it's the same, but remember this digit and this digit have already appeared in the row 4 and the row 1 set, so these are like double counted. These are double blue, if you like. And same is true of column 9. If we were looking at column 9 independently of anything else, column 9 would definitely contain 1 set of the digits 1 to 9. In this puzzle, though, this cell was also in row 1 and this cell was also in row 4, so these are sort of double blue cells as well. So let's ignore the double blue cells and just think about a cell like this. Because, well, actually I'm going to highlight the double blue cells just to make it clear where they are. So we'll give them a purple flash as well. So purple means double blue. So if we count the purple cells twice, then we know that the orange cells and the blue cells together match. They each contain 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Now, I really hope this is going to do something, because otherwise this is a very big waste of everyone's time. Let's think about this cell now. If we were to remove this cell from the orange set and remove it from the blue set, does that do anything? to our conclusion that the orange and the blue sets are equal to one another? Of course it doesn't, because if we're removing the same digit from our set of oranges and our set of blues, it's still true to say that the blues and the oranges are the same. So I'm going to do that for every cell, apart from the purple cells, that has an orange and a blue flash. So let's do that and see where we end up. I think it's all of those cells. So all of those cells I'm just going to remove from orange and from blue. So now it's getting interesting all of a sudden, isn't it? Now let's think about these cells and think about how these cells work. So these cells are in effect, they're double blue and one orange. So if I was to remove one, whatever this digit is, if I remove it from orange and blue, I'll still be left with needing to count it once in blue in order for our conclusion about oranges and blues being the same to be valid. So these cells all have to turn blue because they've lost one blue and one orange in each case. Now hopefully I will have 16 digits in blue, otherwise I've made a mess. I've got 8 there, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes, this looks good, doesn't it? So now at this point in the puzzle, we know that the orange cells and the blue cells are the same. Now, can I use the fact that these are all high? This is going to be a bit tricky to do, actually, isn't it? I think what we're going to have to do, my instinct tells me, anyway, this could be wrong, my instinct tells me that the blue cells are higher than average. So I think what we've got to do is to think about how high is it possible to make the orange cells. If we max them out, what can we make them add up to? Well, I can put a 9 in there, and that will make those 4 cells add up to 9, and then 9 on the arrow. So those cells have a maximum value of 18. Same must be true of this. If I put the 9 in there, and then 9 on its arrow, I've got 18 plus 18, that's 36. Now in box 3, I could put 8 and 9 in the circles, so they can be a maximum value of 17. So I've got 36 plus 17 is 53. Now in this one, I made that a 9, didn't I? So I can't make this a 9. Yeah, it's 17 again. Yeah, the way to think about this is that these two squares together have a maximum value of 8 plus 9. So that means those squares, because these are just the sum of whatever's in there, these also have a maximum value of 17. So what was I on? 53. So 53 and 17 is 70. So 70 is the maximum value of the orange cells. Now, 70 is the maximum value of the orange. So what's the minimum value of the blues? The blues are going to be 30, 43, 55 plus the cells that are not caged. So I need these cells to hopefully equal 15, and they do. There we go. We've done it. We've done it. We have liftoff. That is a really clever beginning. Because what's going on? Well, what's the minimum I can make these 3 cells add up to? Well, if I make them 1s, 2s and 3s, 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. I can do exactly the same in row 4 with a 1, 2, 3 triple. And I can put a 1, 2 pair in row 9. So, on top of my 55 total, I've got to add 6 minimum, another 6 there, and 3 there. That's 70 as a minimum. So 70 is the absolute minimum value of the blue squares, but it's the absolute maximum value of the orange squares. So we have reached equilibrium. We have found the point where demand equals supply. And this is gorgeous, because this is going to give us loads of stuff, I think. And I say that, well, I think it is, isn't it? Because the only way we could get to a total of 70 for the oranges was with a 9 here and a 9 here. So they're 9s. These had to be an 8-9 pair. which we don't actually know the order of, even though there are 2 9s looking into that box. I don't think we do anyway. Now these 2 squares had to add up to 17, right? Well, so this can't be 9. That's got to be 8. So that must be the 9. Now let me just pause and check. Is there anything else we know about the oranges and the blues before we try and do any Sudoku? I'm not sure. I think that's it, isn't it? We've now maxed out the oranges and we've minimized the blues. Right, so I think this is now where we should start to think about things like that 15 cage has to contain a 9, because that can't be a 9. If it has to contain a 9, that's a 6-9 pair. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Right, now where does 6 go in box 5? Well, it can't go on an 8 arrow because you can't put double 1 on the 8 arrow with it. So the 6 goes in the corner of the central box. Which means what? Don't know. It means that this 13 arrow now can't be 6-7, can't be 5-8. So this is 4-9, which I could have seen by Sudoku if I'd looked at it in a different way. Now this column is awfully cluttered, isn't it? It still needs to have 5 and 7 on it. So this is a 5-7 pair. That means the 9 arrow now is not 1, 3, 5. So it's either 1, 2, 6 or it's 2, 3, 4. Now, do we know which of those it is? I'm not sure. 1, 2, 6 or 2, 3, 4. Right. Well, here's a simple question. Where does 8 go in this box? 8's got to go in one of those squares. That resolves our 9 here, gives me an 8 here. That fixes that this 15 cage is not 7, 8. So it is 6. Oh, wow. Okay, so now we have actually reached the point we started at, where we have proved, using different methods, arcane methods of mysticism, that these are the same, and they are 6, 9. So now I know this arrow must have a 6 on it. So that's got one. That's a 1, 2, 6, 9 arrow. Oh, and the 6 is placed, so that's a 6. Okay, that's good. What do we need in this column? We still need 4s, 5s, and 7s. I don't know, there's probably some way we can work out what's possible there, but I can't see immediately how to do it. Now, well, yeah, okay, now this 8 arrow, as we said before, has to have a 1 on it. So there's no 1 here, apart from me, and there's a 1 in that cell, which must be by Sudoku, because we've got sort out your typing. There's a 1 in one of those squares, and therefore there must be a 1 here by Sudoku. Now we can use exactly the same argument. There cannot be a 2 on the 8 arrow, because then I'd need to put a 2 by Sudoku in one of these 3 squares because of the 2 down here. So if there's no 2 on the 8 arrow, the 8 arrow is, as we said before, 1, 3, 4. That fixes this square as a 2, this square as a 3, this square as a 1 apparently. Oh yes, because these were a 1, 2 pair. So this is going to fill in all of these digits around the edges. The 12 cage now can't be 3, 9 or 4, 8, so that's a 5, 7 pair. That probably does something. I'm embarrassed to say I can't see immediately what it is. What about those squares? Oh, they're a 5, 7 pair as well. And these squares have got to be a 4, 8 pair. And if they're a 4, 8 pair, those squares are not 4. So we've got 5, 7 dominoes everywhere. That square now is a 4. Yeah, that's interesting. Look, where do you put 4 in box 1? In one of those 3 squares. That means there's a 4, 8 pair at the top of box 2, and that means this square must be a 6 by our old friend Sudoku. Now this 8 arrow can't be 1, 7 or 2, 6, so that's 3, 5. And the 9 arrow must be 2, 7. And the 2, 7 points at the 2 and the 1. And we're starting to cook with gas. Oh, we can place 1 in box 9. Because you can't put 1 in a circle here. Because these would have to each equal a half or something like that. That's not going to work. 1 is in a domino in box 7 now. This arrow has turned out to... Oh, this is also a 1, 2, 6 arrow. How strange. 1, 2, 6 onto this 9 arrow. That's not a 1 because of the 1 here. So this is very weird. And the reason I say that is that we've made suddenly quite a lot of progress. Oh, 9 has to be in one of those 3 cells. Look. We've still got to put a 9 in row 9 and it can't go in any of those 6 cells. But we've still got lots of arrows that I've not even looked at once. Okay. So, what is the next step in the puzzle? That is the question we need to deal with. 8 has to be in one of those 3 squares. I'm not sure. Can we put, you can't put 8 on the arrow because this then would have to be a 9, which it doesn't seem to be able to be. So we can get rid of 8 there. 8's in one of 2 places. So if this was 8, that would have to be a 3, 5 arrow. But again, that doesn't look impossible at first blush. So we better not rule that out. What about this arrow? This arrow, can it really be 4? I'm not sure. It can't be 4 actually, because it could be a 1, 3 arrow with a 1 here and a 3 here, which is a bit discombobulating. So let's check. If that can't be, it could be 4, I think. It definitely can't be 3 because you can't put 1, 2 on the arrow. If it's not 4, it's not 5. Can it be 6? No, it can't be 6 because if you do try and put 6 there, you either have to 2, 4 the arrow, and that 2 won't let you do that, or you've got a 1, 5 the arrow, and the 5 in this domino won't let you do that. So this is not a 6 arrow, it's not a 7 arrow, it's not an 8 arrow, it's... Oh, bobbins, it might be able to be a 9 arrow. Oh, you rotten thing. Is that really true? The answer is apparently yes. Okay, here comes Maverick for another fly past. So let's check this out then, because it can't have many options in either case. If this is a 4, that's going to be a 1, and that's going to be a 3. And if this is a 9, yeah, that's quite interesting. If this is a 9, you can't put 1, 8 on the arrow, because this 8 and this 1 see this cell. So it's not 1, 8, it's not 2, 7, it's not 4, 5. It would have to be 3, 6. And that, I can't see if we can tell which way round it would go. I don't think we can. So that would be a 3 or a 6, and that would, oh, bother. Oh well, this is never a 4. That is never ever a 4. So the 4 is definitely in this domino. Oh, okay, right. A better question to ask, therefore, is to have a look at this row. This cell, yeah, where do 4 and 9 go in row 3? One way to see that would be to notice that these cells here appear to form a sextuplet on the digits 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7. Another way to see it would be to ask where 4 and 9 go and note they don't seem to be able to go in the sextuplet, so that square's got to be a 4 or a 9. Let's get rid of the 4 in the corner. Oh, so that's going to place 9 now in box 7, because now we can ask where 9 goes in column 1, and we can see it can't go in any of those 6 cells. So it's got to be in one of these 3 cells, but exactly the same logic in rows 7 and 8 tells us it was definitely in one of those 3 squares. So we could get to put 9 in the corner, which is sometimes propitious in the videos. So what do we do next? Well, what we probably do... No, that was not a good idea. I was going to say, can we do something like argue that 1 has to be in one of those squares, because it now does. And that might put pressure on the rest of this row. Or not, as the case may be. So I think it's the same with... Yeah, I mean, there's an 8 in one of those. Oh, yeah, okay, that's interesting. There's an 8 in one of these 2 squares, and there's an 8 in one of those 2 squares. So where does 8 go in column 2 now? It's got to go in one of those 3 positions. That's useless. Oh, no. No. Okay. Well, it's got a bit of a sting in the tail, this. It's sort of scorpion Sudoku, isn't it? Because we were doing quite well, and now we're not. I'm using the royal we in an effort to make myself feel better. So what about that arrow then? Is that well, okay. This arrow can't have a 1 on it. So it's at least a 2 plus a 3 adding to 5. So this cell here is at least a 5. And it can't be a 6. So it's a 5, a 7 or an 8. Now, is there a reason it can't be one of those things? That is the question. And the answer is... Well, if it's 5, it's a 2-3 pair. Oh, no, better than that. In fact, this is interesting. Look at the 2s. The 2s are pinching box 4. There has to be a 2 on the arrow. So if it's a 5, it's a 2 and a 3. If it's a 7, it's a 2 and a 5. This is not going very well. If it's an 8, it's a 2. Oh, at least we can get rid of 8. Oh, that's going to be helpful. Yeah, okay. It's not 8. Because there's a 2 on the arrow, you'd need to put 6 on the arrow, and that's going to clash with this. So that square is not 8. And from our pencil marks, we therefore learn there's an 8 in this cell, and therefore in this cell. And that's lovely, because now where does 1 go in box 1? Only in this cell. And that's gorgeous. This is gorgeous, actually, isn't it? Because this has told us about the arrow here. And the arrow, well, and the 1 in box 7. But... now this can't be a 9 because I can't put 8 on the arrow. So that is a 4 arrow. And that's a 9, and that's a 9, and that's a 6. And here we go again. The 3 is sorting out the 3 and the 5. That's sorting out the 5 and the 7. The 7 and the 2. The 2 goes here. We've got a 1-6 pair left. That square is now known. That's got to be a 6 to complete the box and the row. 6 now must be in this domino in box 7. This column needs 4s, 5s and 7s. So this is, I think, a 4, 5 or a 7. That's not very helpful. 4, 5 and 7s into those squares as well. 3, 5, 2, 3... 7, 2, 5. Yeah, here's something interesting. Yeah, we can't and won't use uniqueness anyway, but there's definitely a 5 in this domino, and there's definitely a 5 in this triomino here, because it's either 5, 2, 3, or it's 7, 2, 5. So that means this square here, well, yeah, that's the limit of it. It means this square is not a 5. There's a 5 in this domino. But we don't get the same effect, I don't think, in row 7 and row 8. Bobbins. Right, so... can that really be a 7? If that's a 7... no, this can't be a 7, because this can't be a 1. So it would be a 2 at minimum, and that would mean this needs to be a 9, which is impossible. So this square is 4 or 5... oh, and I've got a 5-7 pair I've just noticed in column 3, so that's not 5. So the 5 is in one of 2 places, unfortunately probably not useful places, in box 4. But maybe the idea now is to think about 2, 3 and 6 in this column, which have to go into these squares down here, 2, 3 and 6. That's not a 2. It's not that easy, is it? It really, I'm probably missing things here, but it's not that easy to finish this off. What's this square's got? Oh, I suppose that square can't be a 1 or a 2, apparently. So the minimum value of this square is 3, which means the minimum value of this arrow is 7. So this has got to be 3, 4... It can't be 5 because that's going to make the arrow add up to 9. So this square is a 7 or an 8. I hadn't appreciated that. Although it doesn't actually seem to align with anything. Oh no! Is it this arrow then? Is this doing something to this? This can't have a 1 on it, but it could have a 2 in it here. So this could be as little as 5. So that's got 5, 6, 7 and 8 written all over it, I think. Which is disgustingly lax, isn't it? That really isn't helpful. What about that one? Oh, this is the same. This is the same. You can't put 1 on this, but you can put 2 on it. Only there though. So this square is at least. Oh no, hang on. This is going to be the cell that matters, because I hadn't thought about the restriction of column 8, where this actually has to be a 4, 7 or an 8. Well, it's definitely not a 4 because you can't put 1, 3 on the arrow. So this square is a 7 or an 8. And this square is a 4, 7 or an 8. It's still not revealing its secrets, you rotten thing. What about this square then? So that square's at least a 3. It's 3, 4, 5. It's not 8. So if this is a 7, this square here has to be 3, 4, or 2. That's incredibly unhelpful. And if it's an 8, oh, if it's an 8, look, it's quite forced if it's an 8, because you can't put 1, 7 on it, because this square can't be a 1 or a 7. You can't put 2, 6 on it, because this square can't be a 2 or a 6. So if that's an 8, this is a 3, 5 arrow. And it would have to be this way round. So these are, in fact, the entirety of the options for this string of digits. So if this is 7, this is... Yeah, okay, I have got something here. This is very tricky though. It's not an easy point, but it is true. This arrow here always has a 4 or a 5 on it. Always, because if it's 7, it's either 3, 4 or 5, 2. And if it's 8, it's always 3, 5. So it's always got a... So this square, this domino, contains a 4 or a 5. That is a 4 or a 5. So in this row, you can't have any more 4s and 5s in the other cells. And that tells us this digit. That's got to be a 9. That's got to be a 4. That's got to be a 9. That's got to be a 6. Wow, it's still not... Hang on. What are we missing now? Is that really all we learn from that? 2, 3, 7 and 8. I think it might be. I'm not immediately seeing what else we can learn from this. This is ridiculously difficult. Right, okay. No, to be fair, I mean, that's very clever as well, so we're going to have to think harder. Now, how do we think harder about this? Oh, that can't be a 6, look, because if it's a 6, it needs to be 1, 5 or 2, 4, so maybe this is where we look next. 5 would be 2, 3, which would have to be this way round. 7 couldn't be 1, 6 or 3, 4, so that would need to be 2, 5, which again would have the 2 here and the 5 here. 8. Well, this can't, this one, yeah, okay, this arrow's now become restricted. This is a bit like this arrow. Because this digit can't be 1, 7 or 2, 6, the only way of making 8 work would be with a 3, 5 pair. But the problem is that removes all of the tension on this square, which I was up to that point thinking could only be a 2. So this square is only 3 or 5. Let me just go through these options again. It's 5, 2, 3, 7. Can't put a 4. Oh, 7, 2, 5. Oh, right. Yes. Absolutely gorgeous. Right. So let's look at these 3 squares and think about them. I'll make them yellow. What digit is always in those 3 squares? The answer's 5. Either this is a 5 or it's a 7 or an 8, but the only way of making the totals work is with a 5. In each case, 7 has to be 2, 5, 8 has to be 3, 5. So that means if there's a 5 in there, that square is not a 5, which seems to push 5 onto the arrow. And that, I think, is going to be powerful because once I get a 5 here, now this square can't be a 7, so that's got to be 8. And now that square's got to be 3, I think. That means that square's a 2. Which means this square's a 5, this square's a 7. I'm hopeful now, actually. This does actually seem to be making dramatic. Now look at a 4 here. Remove 4 from this square. This square's now known. That's a 5, that's a 7. Remove 4s from those squares. Please don't run out. No, it's not. There's a 4, 8 pair at the top now. This is not 8 anymore. This is now 7. So this has become 5, which means it's a 2, 3 arrow, and we know the order. That's become a 3. That's a 3, that's a 6. These squares here have got to be 2 and 4, which we know the order of. That's we've done the 7 and the 5 up there for a while. I'm not sure how long, but I've only just noticed. Okay, so this is not 4. So that means that's the only place for a 4 now in column 8. This is no longer a 3. Oh, still 7 and 8 are both possible. But the 5 tells us of the order. So that's 4, that's 7, that's 8, and that should be a 5. And that does look actually like it's working. And this square should be an 8. And the 3 gives me the 3 and the 1 and the 6, the 5 and the 7. The 7 goes in the corner of box 8, and this square here should be a 6, and that does look like it's correct. Yes, what a wonderful puzzle that is. There is nothing simple about that, but it is a series of beautiful elegancies. It really, I loved the beginning because this is an awkward set. It's an awkward set, except that what Abed Hawila has done here is signalled it, and these are the best sorts of set puzzles. I was thinking quite early on about the effect of these 15 cages and what they were going to do to these 4 digits, and you can see in each case where you combine the effect of the killer cages, it's pushing digits into these 2x2s, and when you consider them as a set, as a unit, as a complete block, you get a very meaningful restriction, which was powerful enough for us to start the puzzle. And the surprising thing then was we got an absolute flurry of activity, which ground to the most, abrupt halt. And once it had ground to a halt, we really had to think quite carefully. I'm not sure whether I've missed some stuff about these arrows, but they were very, very cleverly done, and I really thought it was impressive. I thought this little arrow here was impressive for forcing the virtual 4-5 pair, and the fact that there had to be a 5 in this string of yellow digits locking the 5 up here was absolutely gorgeous. It's a brilliant puzzle, it really is. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. Do try and join me for the witness stream later. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back later for another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.